Hey everybody, welcome to the 3cast for July 14th, 2017.
14.
Yeah, the 14th. It's halfway through this month already, Vince.
Yep.
It's terrible. It's been a whole month since we've done an episode again. But we're
busy.
just all busy, and Ricky's wife's pushing out kids like it's no tomorrow. He's
No,
probably
that's mine had it on 4th of July, so it's not. Oh,
you too. Good Lord, you guys are between the two of you, you're solely responsible for the continuance of the human race. Congratulations. I won't be contributing to that, and I think that the world should thank me. Terrible father. Anyways, so this is the 3cast. I'm Matthew Weber. That's Vincent Toy. Ricky is doing something with a kid. Don't ask questions. You don't want to know. He might join us. He might not. It doesn't matter. Anyway, so this is the 3cast. We review movies. We review comics. Every once in a while, we'll do a television show. If we all lose our jobs and this becomes our main thing, we have to do books. But I don't see that happening ever. Because books would be awesome, but we just don't have the time. Anyway, so this week we watched the very first James Bond film, Dr. No. This is Sean Connery and a whole bunch of people that I don't know. So I'm not even going to look it up because it doesn't really matter.
There was no one there of note, actually. That's the saddest part.
Yeah, there's other than Sean Connery, there was no one else that I recognized. But granted, they were all foreign actors. So there wasn't even very many like even the guy who played Leiter.
Oh yeah.
He was in the movie I don't know, for 5 minutes total. I mean, he was supposed to be on the same investigation as James Bond, but they didn't use him at all. Anyway, so if you haven't seen Dr. No, first of all, it's from the early 70s or late 60s. 60s. So if you haven't, say it again, Vince.
70s, there would have been more color.
If it were in the 70s, they would have had a decent soundtrack. Yeah, so that's the first thing you notice going into this film is that the soundtrack is terrible.
It's the original Bond theme. Come on, you can't get.
Well, yeah, okay, it's I don't know. It was not well recorded. Then fine. But all right, so if it was like I said, if it was in the 70s, it would have a great soundtrack because maybe John Williams would have taken it over. But he would have been too busy with Star Wars. So I mean, a decade later, he was able to do the first Star Wars film, and that was awesome. So I mean, obviously, great soundtracks were available to be made.
Yep.
Anyways, so if you haven't seen this movie, it's your typical James Bond film. Say that again, Vince.
It's the first one. It sets the mold, and that's why everyone kind of redoes hints of what you see in this movie as an homage, I gather, or to reinforce the heritage.
Exactly the same. They have a central villain that doesn't come into play until halfway through the movie, or in this case, I don't know, an hour and 25 minutes in. So in this case, the villain is Dr. No. The thing that he's doing wrong is they're trying to interfere with a space launch in Cape Canaveral. Is that right, Vince?
Yep.
I guess I never really understood the whole technical thing because they're doing something with radiation. We know that.
Yep.
But they're also doing something with radio waves, trying to
disrupt the communications to what is not NASA's communications array. But I think that I'll get to it later in a little bit more depth. But there's the whole space race thing that really should be emphasized at the same time as this going on. Remember, man doesn't get put on the moon until 69, but this comes out I don't know 8 years or something beforehand or something like that. So yeah.
Well, yeah. So NASA, the whole space race started in the late 50s. So it was well into that. But what's interesting is it wasn't really. So if you go into this movie expecting the whole thing expecting the KGB officers and things because I had never seen it before. I didn't know what it was about. I expected the big bad to somehow be tied or affiliated with but it really wasn't. He was just kind of like a guy who was just pissed off at everybody. So, I mean, I don't really understand how much more of a summary we can get. James Bond kicks his ass. He sleeps with at least 3 women, including one of the like the women who are on the opposite side of the typical Bond. He says shaken, not stirred. Once he says Bond, James Bond, right at the beginning of the movie. That's how you're introduced to him. Typical James Bond had.
The interesting thing about that part was that that's a signature trademarked kind of way he puts his name, but it's funny because we always take it as Bond, James Bond, and that's his thing. But if you remember in the casino scene, it's the woman that is talking to him, and she goes like Mary Smith, or whatever, right?
Yeah. So that's how she introduces herself first. So that's how he introduces himself. Yeah. And then it kind of flows through the rest of the franchise. Yeah, I noticed that too. Again, disposable female character that he sleeps with. And then Moneypenny shows up. He flirts with her, but ignores her. So obviously, but that's a characteristic of the entire film, at least up until Eva Green's character in Casino Royale, right? Because that's the only non-disposable female character that supposedly there is. That's supposedly Casino Royale was the reason why he is the way he is, right? That's the reason. So, so I'll just get into there's a couple things. I mean, we could talk ad infinitum about the technology and crazy how old this themes and the janky special effects. I know you wanted to say something about that. I just want to say this. It had the very corny sayings all the way throughout. So James Bond, that's what he does. And the second thing is the villain was just totally. I mean, who cares in this film? He didn't seem all that evil. I mean, yeah, he was doing something evil, and he had this whole organization around him who was killing people. But the villain himself was so sparse in this movie. I mean, he showed up for maybe 10 minutes, the whole hour and 50 minutes, maybe.
Yeah, and then the final fight.
Right? Yeah, the final fight's like 40 seconds long.
Yeah.
I mean, it was atrocious. I mean, it's like you expect. I mean, if the whole movie is about fighting this big bad villain, and then not only is the end fight scene where James Bond is victorious so minuscule and insignificant, but the villain himself is insignificant because he's just a guy who has a whole bunch of bad guys working for him, which is the typical mold. But you don't learn enough about him to care. I guess that was my biggest thing. I thought I thought going into this that I was gonna hate it because of how old it was and the bad technology and how hilarious the high speed car chases were. And
that was a special effect right there.
Yeah, but how fake it was him driving with like a green screen behind him.
Well, comment on the special effect there was that you notice how big the cars were? Like it wasn't shot in the same perspective, and the cars were like 3 times bigger than they should have been. If they're in your, things look bigger in the mirror. It was really weird to see these things huge in the background.
Yeah, it was. Well, it's because he's actually not driving in those scenes. He's sitting in a chair with a steering wheel, in front of a camera, and then I don't know if it's a green screen or whatever they had in the back in the days, because they didn't have like a GoPro that they could attach to the hood and actually in those days. I don't think.
Dude, I don't think that was a green screen. I think that was straight up a guy in the front of a car, and behind him they had a white screen, and they were projecting like dudes driving cars. I'm not even joking. I think that's what happened.
It could be, because I don't know when green screen technology was, and it probably was, because it was the 60s. So I don't think maybe green screen didn't come until the late 70s. I don't know. Anyways, is this, Vince? This movie, while typical action movie, typical James Bond, was the first James Bond. Why wasn't this movie the last one? It's because it wasn't that great. It didn't have fantastic actors. It didn't have a great, terrifically high budget. It wasn't done by an author that was really well known at the time. It didn't have a soundtrack composer that was well known. why wasn't this James Bond film the only James Bond film? Why did they renew it and keep going?
Okay, so
You know?
I think the first superficial, easy way of understanding it is that it was based on the legacy of not Arthur Kondo, Irv, is it what's Ian Fleming's
Ian
book,
Fleming, yeah.
right? Like,
Book.
it's based on this anthology that he's written. So like obviously, if you've got a loyal readership, you know that for sure as a movie studio that even if the first movie kind of sank or stinks, there's still going to be people to watch a sequel. They also knew that because when you watch the movie, they set it up for sequels, right? The fact that they did not start with the original or the first Ian Fleming book, which I think was Casino Royale, and instead they start with this one, is because of Dr. No's relationship to Spectre, which ostensibly would have been the larger terrorist group that Bond would always be the nemesis of, right?
It's like Moriarty for Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, but not even Moriarty. Just like imagine if Moriarty had a company that like had more little Moriartys, right? That's the same kind of thing where like later on, I'm not sure if you watched them yet, but later on in some other movies that James Bond's in, there are other Spectre relationships there. Okay, so I think that in a nutshell, it's money that would allow them to have a stinker of a movie. Knowing full well that they would be able to make sequels, no problem. But I also like thinking about what was going on at that point in time, and and this is where I start to sound like a super neoconservative kind of person. But at that point in time, there was everything from the kind of dissatisfaction and revolt with America from like the way it treats its racial bias to, of course, Korea had done its business. When did Vietnam officially start?
50 some.
No way. 50 something?
It was like. Well, all right. So you got to remember that the U.S. didn't go into Vietnam right at the beginning. They didn't join until later.
It dropped out, right? But the reason why I'm saying this is because they had a huge zeitgeist at that point in time across the world where people were dissatisfied with seeing their male heroes as simply being these kind of, let's make peace, let's be okay with things. This was James Bond. This was the first time you had a badass kind of guy that would take no prisoners, literally has a license to kill.
Yeah, right? 1955, by the way.
Okay. Oh, yeah. So I mean, I can kind of see how this is like a relationship to like the demographic of like the 18 to 25 demographic of kids that really want to see something they aspire for. So what else could you aspire for? A guy that gets cool cars, cool gadgets, always gets to sleep with the ladies, right? Saves
with no consequences.
Sorry?
With no consequences, like he's
exactly. And I mean, he is the kind of borderline chauvinist, but he's able to keep order, and he's fairly successful at it, right? So I think that at that point in time, lots of people would be gravitating towards the movie, going, "Man, that's kind of stuff I want." Like if you look at the way cinema works, or media in general, usually you find that the media that's embraced is that which people want to say but don't have the ability to do so on their own. Everything from gangster rap, right, to even the grunge movement, to say, I don't know, like we watch, like even Harry Potter, right? Like there's this desire to break from this empirical stuff, right? So in the same vein, we have, this kind of 007, amazing agent with amazing skills, amazing resources, and gets everything he wants that everyone wants to be like. Of course, you're gonna have a ton of people wanting it, right? So I think they did a good work in laying the groundwork with this particular movie. And coming back to a lot of the points you made, I think that it was really good to watch it because I haven't watched it in like God knows how many decades. But I thought there were some interesting cues. We talked about the fact that the James Bond, or the fact that he carries the same type of gun all the way through. He has a license to kill, which is always a consistent thing all the way through. But I found that what was problematic for me is because I've watched a lot of the movies. I grew up on not the Sean Connery James Bond, but the Roger Moore James Bond. And at that point in time, they'd already established that, what's her name? Judi Dench was already in as M. They already established the guy that was Q, the gadget inventor guy, right? So it's weird to go back to like the first one and realize who the hell is that guy, or Q shouldn't be that guy. And quite frankly, I thought M was supposed to be Judi Dench, but I then realized that she might be old, but she's not that old, right? But
well, yeah, that, and you're gonna have to get used to her because they killed her off in Skyfall. So
yeah. But in any
spoiler
event, it does lay the groundwork for a lot of aspirational stuff. I know my father. He watched this movie a lot, and he actually got me into watching James Bond movies when I was a kid. And I think it was simply because it was an escapist medium, and specifically the IP that he really liked to show. And I mean, there's something for everybody. Like, I mean, we're kind of tech fetish guys, right? So, when you see James Bond have like a knife in a shoe to a bomb made out of something else, that's the kind of cool stuff that as a kid you'd like. But then as a grown up, or a teenager, you go, man, there's a guy get the woman, like, man, she's hot. That's another thing. And then when you get older, it's like the more mature guy. It's like, man, this guy doesn't have any cares. He gets the great car, and he probably does fairly well because the guy can't afford like tuxedos for free, right? So, at all the male demographics, he's pretty much hitting it all up. And I don't want to sound like I don't know women perspectives, but I don't. But I'd imagine back in the day, how many times do you see shirtless Sean Connery, right? That movie, especially being in Jamaica, he's always half naked. And, I think that people thought he was sexy back in the day. So, I mean, I can kind of see how this movie does a good job at, again, come back to your first question, facilitating more people wanting to watch it down the line, and certainly sets up a lot of the tone of what James Bond or the series is nowadays.
Can we talk for a minute about the dragon?
The ghetto machine?
Yeah, like it's like a tank, but it blows out fire for no apparent reason.
Right.
And it's painted like a dragon, and it apparently has so Dr. No has spread the mythos or the a legend of the dragon killing people. That's the reason why people stay away from his little island. But there's actually like a tank style dragon. That's what catches James Bond. Like I don't know whether or not to applaud their creativity or cringe at the corniness of there actually being like drawn teeth on the front of it. And that would be interesting is that there was it wasn't widespread, I don't think, at that time. I'm not sure. I'm not quite sure the timeline, but it was a tradition of some sorts to actually paint that kind of stuff in World War II, like on planes, right? I'm not sure if they did it with like tanks. So maybe that's kind of a throwback to the whole painting of the planes. But it was still like I'm not quite sure what that is.
I think tanks got more of a butt kicking, so painting it would be like kind of useless, given that it would be like shelled with.
Well, then you kind of want them to. I think you kind of want them to blend in, right? So that's the reason why they're like green and camouflage kind of thing. So bright red teeth or whatever really wouldn't go along with that. I don't know. It was just weird.
No, I thought that maybe that was one of those lost in translation things, because I found that the dragon and even the lair, I think they could have been probably just a mistranslation from what Fleming wrote, because I think that there was something that could have been more scary and more left to imagination, with it possibly being dark in the forest with the dragon. But certainly the kind of cheesy, James Bond, quintessential Bond villain lair. You see whenever we put those plastic bags on their heads too, those little weird vinyl plastic bags over their heads for breathing. It was just interesting to see all that stuff go down. Anyway,
that and I don't know, like that last scene where they're like Dr. No and all of his minions are there, all dressed up in like their nuclear protection suits or whatever. It reminded me so much of the Willy Wonka television scene. Remember that?
Yep.
Where all the Oompa Loompas are all dressed up in the white suits. Mm-hmm. I almost expected all those guys to break out into Oompa Loompa. That would have been hilarious.
But you know what's good though? I thought that it was really good to see the this movie, because you could actually make the connections to the Austin Powers series, which, believe it or not, came out 20 years ago, eh?
Yeah, doesn't that make you feel old?
Doesn't make you feel old, man.
It doesn't make me feel old.
But the thing is, with the Austin Powers thing, it's very much driven by Dr. No. Like everything from Dr. Evil's kind of lair to his outfits, to the kind of like way that they play up women, or the fact that some of the villains are just completely useless. I think that you see some of that in Dr. No, and you see it carried through in not only the James Bond movies, but it's lampooned a lot in, of course, the Austin Powers series stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I don't see any other James Bond movie parodied as much as Dr. No in the Austin Powers series.
Well, yeah, because they're going to base it on the original, right? So, all right. So I would give this movie probably a 2 out of 5. I guess, I don't know. It wasn't terrible.
Well,
it got me thinking about why the James Bond was so popular, but it also wasn't very good. You know, it was just the villain really disappointed this movie.
I would give it 3 out of 10, but the reason why is because I'm biased to what I've seen coming out in the past, right? And the special effects were really taking me out of it. I appreciate everything they tried to do with the movie, but at the end of the day, it still wasn't entertaining. Like, what, Matt? What was Dr. No's end goal?
As far as I know, he was like the Joker trying to sow chaos, but I'm not sure.
Yeah,
because I didn't really get the whole. So I watched it on my phone through Plex while I was working, so I didn't really get the whole. Because I really don't understand how. So they were disrupting a space launch from Cape Canaveral. That was their goal. But I didn't understand why that also entailed working with radioactive materials. I didn't really understand the whole correlation between them, because I mean, there's a difference between radio waves and radioactive. I mean,
and that's why I really look back at it and I was like, I don't understand why this whole thing happened, because the whole premise was that he was trying to investigate the loss of a British agent, right?
James Bond was, yes.
Yeah, and then the next thing you know is, of course, he's sleeping with women, but he's then finding out about this other guy who turns out to be the helper for the American spy, and I'm just, and it's like, oh, you know what? While I'm here, let me help you do that. Sure.
Yeah, and the only way he gets turned on to Dr. No is through the Americans, right? That's the only way. So the only correlation between what he was researching or what he was investigating and the Americans and the end result was that the reason why the secretary and the ambassador or whatever it was killed at the beginning was to steal those files, right, of Dr. No.
Okay.
So that's the reason why that's the thread that started him on the way towards Dr. No. But still, I mean, everything in this movie is kind of disposable outside of James Bond, because I mean, they could have found any number of ways to have him investigate the crime or whatever, and totally written out the American angle. They could have totally written out every single woman in the film. They could have written out the dragon. They could have written out, how they could have almost written out the whole villain. I mean, from the end. So I mean, it's really, that's the reason why I had that question. It was, why was this so popular? Because the plot just didn't put it together. There wasn't, other than James Bond being awesome, there wasn't enough plot points outside of that to draw you in and make you think that this is a really good story. You know what I mean?
Yep, I agree. So I think we're all in agreement here. It's something that's a decent first attempt, but not a good movie by certainly its subsequent predecessors.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. All right, so I think it's kind of like it's really hard to go back to really old movies like this and judge it without letting our modern bias, affect what we're saying. Because especially, can you imagine if we assigned ourselves 2001: A Space Odyssey, right? Special effects from that. So I'm going to say something that's blasphemy for my personal belief system, but it's one of the reasons why Star Wars is so amazing in how well special effects have kind of held up. You know what I mean? Yeah, they're kind of old-fashioned, but when you compare them to everything else that happened, the decade before and even kind of the decade after, Star Wars is kind of awesome in terms of special effects. Now,
from the guy that has a BB-8 and a Captain Phasma sticker on their back wall there.
Yes, yeah. Did you see these?
Yeah,
that's hilarious. I don't like Star Wars, but I got stickers on the wall. They came in a cereal box, so sue me.
okay.
I like decorating things, nerdy stuff.
Wait, dude, that movie came out a year ago. How old's the cereal you're eating, man?
No, they've been up there for a long time, Vince.
Okay, no, sorry, it came out 2 years ago.
Yeah, they've been up there for a long time. I just the camera angle is finally showing them off.
Okay.
What's great about all this, Vince, for you is that we're recording this, and you can use this to hold over my head every time I say Star Wars sucks.
Just saying, man.
All right. Anyways, so let's move. Do you have a pick of the week, Vince?
No, sorry, I do not.
I do. So I'll just take up your time. Matter of fact, I'll do two. So the first one. So when I was using Mac, there was an app called Pathfinder. It was a replacement Finder application, which allowed you to do dual panes, tabs, all this cool stuff. It was like $80. It was amazing. And I kind of forgot about it when I moved to Windows, right? Because I just assumed that Explorer was the only thing you could use.
Yeah.
But that's not the case. There's a whole bunch of Explorer replacements, or Windows Explorer, or whatever the hell they call it in Windows 10 nowadays. There's XYplorer, which I used. It's kind of terrible. It's well designed, but it kind of freezes a lot. The one I've settled on is called Directory Opus. It's been around for decades. And basically what it is, it allows you to do tabs, dual pane, so you can like transfer things without having to have a whole bunch of Finder windows open. I do a lot of file management nowadays with all the podcast files and writings that I'm doing. So the dual pane and the tabs are just kind of amazing. The problem with Directory Opus is it's expensive. For a single license, it's like $80 Australian, which comes out to just over $100 United States. So I think that means it's even more expensive in Canada. I'm not quite sure on the exchange rate. But anyways, I think it's worth it just because I use it so often. My second one is one that I downloaded tonight. I'm setting up a YouTube channel for each of our podcasts. That's just our YouTube channel, so I don't have to put it on my personal channel anymore. What I wanted to do was find a way that I could go through and download all of the ones that we've recorded onto my computer so I could upload them back to their appropriate channels. And I didn't want to do them one video at a freaking time. So I Googled and searched for a way to download an entire channel's worth of videos. And you channel, just don't, because it's illegal. But
wow.
Especially if you're doing it. Yeah, you can download their entire channel. Like I downloaded all of the ones that we've done on this current channel, and I haven't went back and done the other ones yet, but I will. So this is the way we're going to be able to get to all of our old episodes. Anyways, it's called Gihosoft, Gihosoft, free YouTube downloader. Basically, you copy the URL of the channel you want to download, plug it in, press download. It downloads every single one.
So it's automated, right?
Yeah, you just download it, downloads it into a folder, and it's there. It will also, if you don't want to download the video, you could download an entire channel's worth of MP3 files, and it will convert them like on the fly. And it's 100% free. There's not even ads in the damn thing. And it doesn't try to change your toolbar or your homepage or anything. I mean, I downloaded this, I used it, I was like, that doesn't happen to anybody. I mean, in this day and age, it's all about advertisements and shit. I mean, no prompting to buy anything. I mean, like, who are these people? I mean, they have to be communists of some sort.
That sounds like a big surprise, man. I think it might be like you have Russian hackers or something inside your computer.
I would have been very wary of it if it wasn't recommended like by PC World. So, so I mean, like, I didn't get this off from like a Jack's forum. I would have been a little worried about that, but it was recommended by PC World or Mac World or one of the worlds. It was on like a major website. So yeah,
But
it's freaking awesome.
But it's a separate software. It's not like a built-in thing into your like browser or anything.
No, it's like an application. Yeah, you download it, you open it up, and paste the YouTube URL. So if you just want, you like paste just one video in, and it would just do one video, or you could do the whole channel. I'm thinking about stealing a whole bunch of music from YouTube.
Yep.
Don't tell anybody. I'm going to fill up my Plex server, man, from YouTube. It's going to be great.
Now, what's it called?
It's called GIHOSOFT, Geosoft Free YouTube Downloader.
Mm-hmm. Good, because it sounds good, man.
Yeah, like I just found that tonight. It's awesome. And it didn't even take long. I mean, like I downloaded like 23 videos in like, I don't know, 30 minutes.
And it can convert on the fly too. So like if I want to watch them as MP4s versus I don't know, AVIs.
Right. Well, I don't think it will go through and do specific videos. So like it downloaded these as let's see, it downloaded these as and open up. They downloaded them into MP4s, but it will convert them into either MP4 or MP3. And there was another option that I didn't see. I couldn't see. So it wasn't unlimited, like unlimited options. But once you get them on your computer, you can pretty much transfer them into whatever you want.
Yeah.
But I thought what I really like is like because I'm gonna download both the videos and the audio. That way I can, because the audio goes to iTunes, the videos are gonna go to YouTube. So I can just do both. Yep. It's kind of awesome. And it's free. It's awesome. All right, anyways. So that is it for us this week. Our next episode, we're going to be talking about God knows what. We're going to skip that parenting shit that Ricky has. We'll do that in a week that I can't be here because I have no opinions about that other than don't have kids. That's my parenting advice. And it's not very helpful.
So
if everybody
then for next week, for the next one.
Yeah, so the next one is going to be actually Vince. Vince will find something.
Yep. Okay.
Anyways, that is it for us this week. If you want to get in contact with us, you can do so at email@the3cast.com. Now, the boys mocked me about this and said that I would never do it. You can now you can go to our website at the3cast.com, spelling out the word 3 or just using the number. They both work.
Ooh.
It's done. It's finished. It was even on time. I said I would do it, and then you fuckers mocked me and said I wouldn't do it. But I did it. I was on time. It was awesome.
Way to prove you, man. Way to stick it to me. Yeah.
Yeah, because you don't have any evidence of me procrastinating ever. It's great. Anyways, if you want to follow us on Twitter, you can do so at MTWB. Ricky, who is not here, is Ricky_Williams1. Vince is VWHUI. The 3cast is still only the number. Sorry. I don't want to rule 2 Twitter handles. I don't care that much. So the 3cast with the number. Facebook is also 3cast with the number, and not the number spelled out. Again, because I don't want to fucking Facebook pages. It's just stupid. Anyways, by the time this comes out, we'll have our own YouTube page. It's already set up. We just got to upload it. Anyways, that is it for us this week. We will see you whenever we record again.
Take care.
We're out.